Hi, I'm Jyoti Shaji Edacheri. I have about 15 plus years of experience in the IT industry, and today I will be giving you an introduction to AWS Security. AWS delivers a scalable cloud computing platform designed for high availability and dependability, providing the tools that enable you to run a wide range of applications, thereby helping us to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your systems and data, which is the utmost importance to AWS, as is maintaining customers' trust and confidence. So, this module is basically intended to provide an introduction to AWS approach to security, including the controls in AWS environment and some of the products and features that AWS makes available to customer to meet the security objectives. All AWS customers benefit from a data center and a network architecture built to satisfy the requirements of our most security sensitive customers, right? So this means that you get a resilient infrastructure designed for high security without the capital outlay and operational overhead of a traditional data center. The AWS infrastructure put strong safeguards in place to help protect customer privacy. AWS innovates rapidly at scale, repeatedly incorporating customer feedback into AWS services. This continual improvement benefits all customers because AWS solutions improve over time, including constantly evolving core services such as identity and access management. Yeah, um, logging and monitoring frameworks, encryption and key management, network segmentation, and standard protections at little to no additional cost. You will get an advanced security service invented by engineers with deep insight into the global security trends, allowing you to allowing your team to proactively address emerging risks in real time while paying only for what you use at all of it at a very lower cost. This means that you can choose the security that meets your needs as you grow without upfront expense and with much lower operational overhead when compared to managing your infrastructure. Yeah. A properly secured environment results in a compliant environment. When you migrate your regulated workloads to AWS Cloud, you can achieve a higher level of security at scale by using the governance enabling features. The cloud-based governance offers a lower cost of entry, easier operations, and improved agility by providing more oversight, security control, and central automation by using AWS. Not only that, you also inherit many of the security controls that AWS operates, thereby reducing the number of security controls that you actually need to maintain. Your own compliance and certification program are strengthened while at the same time lowering your cost to maintain and run your specific security assurance requirement. AWS and its partners offer a wide range of tools and features to help you meet your security objective. These tools, these tools actually are the familiar controls which we actually deploy onto the on-premise environment. Yeah. AWS provides specific tools, security specific tools and features across network security, configuration management, access control, and data security. Not only that, AWS also provides monitoring and logging tools to provide full visibility into what is happening in the environment. These include the built-in firewalls that allow you to create private networks within AWS, control the network access to the instance and subnet, encryption in transit with the transport layer security across all services, connectivity options that enable private and dedicated connections from your office or on-premise environment. Yeah, it also helps with the auto scaling or the content delivery strategy. So like this, AWS offers a range of tools to allow you to move fast while still enabling you to ensure that your cloud resources comply with organizational standards and best practices. These include deployment tools to maintain the creation and decommissioning of AWS resources according to the organization standards, inventory and configuration management tools to identify AWS resources and then track and manage changes to those resources over time. AWS offers us with the ability to add a layer of security to the data at rest in cloud, providing scalable and efficient encryption features. These include data encryption capability, which is available in the AWS storage and database services such as Amazon EWS, S3, Glacier, Oracle RDS, SQL Server RDS, and Amazon Redshift. Yeah, the flexible key management option that allows you to choose whether you have AWS manage the encryption keys or maintain complete control over your keys, and dedicated hardware-based cryptographic key storage options for customers to help satisfy the compliance requirement. In addition, AWS provides APIs for you to integrate the encryption and data protection with any of the services that we develop or deploy in the AWS environment. AWS offers with an ability or capability to define and force and manage the user access policies across AWS services. These include the identity and access management capabilities to define individual user accounts with permissions across AWS resource, multi-factor authentication for privileged accounts, including options for hardware-based authentication, integration and federation with corporate directories to reduce the administrative overhead and improve the user experience. AWS provides native identity and access management integration across many of its services, plus API integration with any of your own applications and services. AWS provides tools and features that enable you to see what's happening in your AWS environment. These include deep visibility into API calls, including who, what, when, and from where the calls were made. Yeah, and log aggregation and options, streamlining investigation and compliance reporting, alert notifications when specific events occur or a threshold is exceeded. These tools and features give you the visibility you need to spot issues before they impact the business and allow you to improve security posture and reduce the risk profile of your environment. Now, the AWS Marketplace offers hundreds of industry-related or industry-leading partner products that are equivalent or identical to or integrate with existing controls and your on-premise environment, including anti-malware or web application firewalls and intrusion protection. These products complement the tools and features offered by AWS to enable you to deploy a comprehensive security architecture and a more seamless experience across your cloud and on-premise environments. Helping to protect the security of your systems and data is of utmost importance to AWS, and is maintaining customer trust and confidence. Now, this particular session introduces you to the AWS security approach, including the controls in AWS environment and some of the products and features that AWS makes available to customers to meet their security objective. Okay. Now, just before we move on, the next session is the AWS shared responsibility model. So in this session, I will be giving you an overview of the shared responsibility model. Okay. Now, once the customer starts using AWS, Amazon shares the responsibility of securing the data in AWS with its customers. This concept is what is known as shared responsibility model of cloud security. Okay, I repeat, once the customer starts using AWS, Amazon shares the responsibility of securing the data in AWS with its customers. This concept is what is known as the shared responsibility model of cloud security. Now let's take a closer look at what security AWS and the customers are in charge of in this model. Okay, so if you look at this slide, AWS is responsible for what is known as security of the cloud. Yeah, it's very important. AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. What does that mean? Now, under the shared responsibility model, AWS operates, manages, and controls the components from the host operating system and virtualization layer down to the physical security of the facilities in which the services operate. It means that AWS is responsible for protecting the global infrastructure that runs all the services offered in the AWS cloud, which include regions, availability zones, and edge location. Okay. Now, protecting this infrastructure is AWS responsibility. It is in fact the number one priority, and while you can't visit AWS data centers or offices to see this protection firsthand, Amazon provides several reports from third-party auditors who have verified their compliance with a variety of computer security standards and regulations. Please note that in addition to protecting this global infrastructure, AWS is responsible for the security configuration of its products that are considered foundational, which includes compute, storage, database, networking. Yeah. Examples of these types of services include the Amazon DynamoDB, RDS, Redshift, Elastic MapReduce, Workspace, and several other services. For these services, AWS will handle basic security tasks like guest operating system and database patching, firewall configuration, and disaster recovery. Okay. As a customer, this is valuable because you don't have to worry about patching, maintaining, or installing antivirus, etc. Amazon is going to take care of that so that the customer can focus on what actually goes onto the platform. For most of these managed services, what you have to do is configure logical access controls for the resources and protect your account credentials. Some managed services may require additional tasks such as setting up the database user account, but the overall security configuration work is performed by the service. Okay. While the cloud infrastructure is secured and maintained by AWS, customers are responsible for what we call as security in the cloud. Yeah, so this is key here. So this is the customer's responsibility, which is defined in this slide. And when using AWS services, the customers maintain complete control over their content and are responsible for managing the critical content security requirements, including what content they choose to store on AWS, which AWS services are used with the content, in what country that the content is stored, the format and structure of the content, and whether it is masked, anonymized, or encrypted. Who has access to those contents and how these access rights are granted, managed, and revoked. Okay. So the customers get to retain control of what security they choose to implement to protect their own data, platform, applications, and identity and access management along with the operating system. This means that the shared responsibility model essentially changes depending on the AWS services that the customer uses. The customers can also use AWS Service Catalog to create and manage the catalogs of IT services that they have approved for use on AWS, including the virtual machine images, yeah, the servers, the software, and database. AWS Service Catalog allows you to centrally manage commonly deployed IT services and helps you achieve consistent governance and meet your compliance requirements while actually enabling users to quickly deploy only the approved IT services they need. Now, in order to visualize the AWS shared responsibility model, let's let's actually discuss an example. Yeah, so if you look at the slide, let's say a customer is using Amazon S3 for storage and Amazon Workspaces for desktops and application streaming. They also have VPC, the virtual private cloud, which consists of an EC2 instance and an Oracle database instance. AWS is responsible for protecting the global infrastructure, yeah, that runs all the services offered in the AWS cloud. The AWS global infrastructure is designed and managed according to the security best practices as well as a variety of security compliance standards. AWS products that fall into the category of infrastructure as a service, such as Amazon EC2 and Amazon VPC, are completely under your control and require you to perform all the necessary security configuration and management tasks. For example, for EC2 instance, you are responsible for management of the guest OS, including the updates and security patches. Any application software or utilities that you install on instances and the configuration of AWS provided firewall, may be also called as the security group on each instance. Yeah. So these are basically the same security tasks that you are used to performing no matter where your servers are located. Okay. So let's have a quick recap of what we have learned on the shared responsibility model. So the shared responsibility model consists of AWS and customers working together to secure data in the cloud. AWS is responsible for security of the cloud, while the customer is responsible for security in the cloud. Customers have full control of what security they choose to implement given the AWS services they are using. Customers can use AWS Service Catalog to create and manage catalogs of IT services that have been approved for use on AWS. Okay, and AWS provides AWS products that fall into the category of infrastructure as a service, such as the EC2, VPC, are completely under the control of customers' control, which require them to perform all the necessary security, configuration, and management tasks. Okay, so that's about the access management and yeah, sorry, the shared responsibility model. Now, the next slide is about the AWS access control and management. Now, talking about the identity and access management, the AWS IAM basically enables you to manage the access to AWS services and resources securely. Using IAM, you can create and manage AWS users and groups and use permissions to allow and deny their access to AWS resources. IAM is a feature of your AWS account offered at no additional charge. You will be charged only for use of other AWS services by your users. Okay, now AWS IAM basically controls access to AWS resources. It basically tells about who can access resources, which is called as authentication, and how they can use the resources, otherwise the authorization. Now, AWS IAM basically can be performed on services offered from AWS, such as compute, storage, database, and application services. Yeah, and AWS IAM assist basically in creating users and groups, permissions, and roles. Now here you can create users in IAM, assign them individual security credentials, in other words, access keys, passwords, and multi-factor authentication devices, or also request a temporary security credential to provide user access to AWS services and resources. IAM also allows you to manage the IAM roles and their permissions, which means that you can create roles in IAM and manage permissions to control which operation can be performed by the entity or the AWS service that assumes a particular role. And the third is that IAM allows you to manage the federated users and their permissions. Okay, so you can enable the identity federation to allow existing identities in your enterprise to access the AWS Management Console or call the AWS APIs and access resources without the need to create an IAM user for each identity. So this can be either through a support of SAML 2.0 or AWS Console SSO or API Federation. So it could be any of the techniques. Now, coming from IAM role creation per se, the AWS account root user is the recommendation is that you got to delete the root user access keys, create an IAM user, should be able to grant the administration access and also use those credentials. Okay, and this particular aspect we just discussed in terms of managing the users and their access, roles and permissions, and also managing the federated users and their permissions. Now, AWS authentication as such is split into two components. One is the programmatic access, which basically enables access to the key store or secret access key, or it could be the AWS API, CLI, or the SDK. as such. And the management console access is basically a sign-in to the AWS management console um, using AWS account name and password, and also the multi-factor authentication prompt for code. Okay, and here are some of the IAM best practices. This is more about, we can just go through one by one. This is scripted basically from AWS front, which says it's a good practice to delete the AWS root account access keys, activate multi-factor authentication wherever applicable, give the IAM user only the permission they need, use IAM groups, apply an IAM password policy, use roles for application, use roles instead of sharing the credentials, rotate the key rotation and credential rotation should happen regularly, remove unnecessary users and the credentials, use the policy conditions for extra security, and monitor activity in your AWS account. Now, the IAM policy document as such in AWS is stored in a JSON format. Yeah. So that's more about the AWS access management. Now we move on to the next topic, which is the AWS Security Compliance Program. Let me give you a brief overview of the Security Compliance Program. Yeah. Now, as with everything at Amazon, the success of the security and compliance program is primarily measured by one thing, which is nothing but the customer's success, right? Now, the customers drive the portfolio of compliance reports, attestation, and certification that support their efforts in running a secure and compliant cloud environment. So for this, you can take advantage to achieve the savings and security at scale that AWS offers while still maintaining the robust security and regulatory compliance. Now, in this module, I will be discussing the AWS compliance approach, which includes the assurance program, the AWS risks and compliance program, such as risk management, control environment, and information security. Okay. And finally, I will wrap up with the AWS customer compliance responsibilities. Now, talking about the AWS compliance approach. So, in the shared security responsibility model, AWS and its customers share control over securing the IT environment. AWS part in shared responsibility model includes providing its services on a highly secure and controlled platform and providing a wide array of security features that the customers can use. The customer's responsibility includes configuring their IT environments in a secure and controlled manner for their purposes, right? While customers don't communicate their use and configurations to AWS, AWS does communicate its security and control environment that is relevant to the customers. So AWS does this by doing the some of these. So obtaining the industry certifications, publishing information about AWS security and control practices in white papers and websites, and providing certificates, reports, and other documentations directly to AWS customers under the NDA requirement. Yeah. AWS engages with external certifying bodies and independent auditors to provide customers with considerable information regarding the policies, process, and independent auditors to provide customers with whatever is needed. Now, compliance certifications and attestations are assessed by third party independent auditor, and the result in a certification audit report or attestation of compliance is provided. The AWS customers remain responsible for complying with applicable compliance laws and regulations. In some cases, AWS offers functionality such as security feature, enablers, and legal agreement to support the customer compliance. Compliance alignments and frameworks include published security or compliance requirement for a specific purpose, which can be a playbook, a mapping document, or a white paper. Yeah. The AWS provides information about its risk and compliance program to enable customers to incorporate AWS controls into their governance framework. This information can assist customers in documenting a complete control and governance framework with AWS, which is included as part of the risk management control environment and information security. Let's take a look at each of the AWS risk and compliance program in more detail. Yeah. AWS management has developed a strategic business plan which includes risk identification and implementation of controls to mitigate or manage the risk. AWS management re-evaluates the strategic business plan at least biannually. This process requires management to identify risks within its areas of responsibility and to implement appropriate measures designed to address these risks. Now, in addition, AWS control environment is subject to various internal and external assessments, and they basically have some of the governing bodies given here, like the control objective for information and related technology, COBIT, AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and NIST. If you actually look at the AWS website, you will find many more of them. Yeah, but this is just at a high level in terms of the security model. AWS maintains the security policy, provides security training to its employees, and performs the application security reviews. Okay. Now, these reviews assess their confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, as well as conformance to the information security policy. Now, as AWS Security regularly scans all internet-facing service endpoints, IP addresses which are vulnerable, scans are not performed on customer Amazon EC2 instances. So AWS Security notifies the appropriate parties to remediate any identified vulnerability. In addition, external vulnerability threats are performed regularly by independent security firms. So findings and recommendations resulting from these assessments are categorized and delivered to the AWS leadership. These scans are done in a manner for health and visibility of underlying AWS infrastructure and are not meant to replace the customer's own vulnerability scan, which is required to meet the specific compliance requirement. The customers can request permission to conduct scans of their cloud and infrastructure as long as they are limited to the customer's instance and do not violate AWS acceptable use policy. AWS manages a comprehensive control environment that includes policies, process, and control activities that leverage various aspects of Amazon's overall control environment. The collective control environment, it comprises of the people, process, technology which is necessary to establish and maintain an environment that supports the operating effectiveness of AWS control framework. AWS continues to monitor these industry groups for ideas on which leading practices can be implemented to better assist the customers with managing their control environment. Now, AWS has implemented a formal information security program which is designed to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of customer system and data. AWS publishes a security white paper that is available on public website that addresses how AWS can help customers secure their data. Okay. As always, AWS customers are required to continue to maintain adequate governance on the entire IT control environment, regardless of how it is deployed. And leading practices include an understanding of required compliance objective and requirements, establishment of a control environment that meets those objectives, and understanding of validation which is required for compliance objectives, verification of operating effectiveness of their control environment, yeah, and strong customer compliance and governance might include basic approach, which includes a review, which is review of information that is available from AWS, together with other information to understand as much of the entire IT environment as possible. Then design and implement the control objective to meet the enterprise compliance, to identify uh, and document the controls owned by outside parties, and also to verify that all control objectives are met and all key controls are designed and operating effectively. By staying engaged in compliance and governance process with AWS, customers can ensure compliance requirements are being met. Okay. So that's more about the security compliance program, which is at a high level the risk and compliance program on the control environment, information security, and risk management. Now, next topic is AWS Security Program or Security Resources. Now, in this, I will be giving you an overview of security resources, which communicates its security and control environment that is relevant to the customer by, industry certification or information about AWS security and control papers, reports, documentations, and other things which are available. Now let's take a closer look at how AWS provides customers with guidance and expertise through online tools, resources, support, and professional services to secure their data. So number one here is the AWS Trusted Advisor, which is an online tool that acts like a customized cloud expert. It helps you to configure your resources to follow best practices. The Trusted Advisor inspects your AWS environment to help close security gaps and find opportunities to save money, improve system performance, and increase reliability. The next on list is the AWS account teams, who provide a first point of contact guiding you through the deployment and implementation, and pointing you towards the right resource to solve security issues that you might encounter. The third one is the AWS Enterprise Support, who provide 15-minute response time and is available 24/7 by phone, chat, or mail, along with a dedicated technical account manager. This concierge service ensures that the customer issues are addressed as swiftly as possible. The next one, AWS Professional Services and AWS Partner Network. Both help customers develop security policies and procedures based on well-proven designs, and help to ensure that customer security design meets internal and external compliance requirements. The AWS Partner Network has hundreds of certified AWS consulting partners worldwide to help customers with their security and compliance needs. Next is the AWS advisories and bulletins, which provide advisories around current vulnerability and threats, and enable customers to work with AWS security experts to address the concern like reporting abuse or vulnerabilities and penetration testing. Now, if you are in an auditing, compliance, or a legal role, you might want to check out the AWS Auditor Learning Path to get a better understanding of how your internal operations can demonstrate compliance using AWS platform. You can access recommended training, self-paced labs, and auditing resources from the compliance website. Now, if you don't know where to start with compliance or need to assess frequently used resources and process, check out the AWS Compliance Solution Guide, wherein you can learn about the available compliance solutions available, such as shared responsibility model, requesting a compliance report, or completing a security question. Okay. The other helpful compliance resources include the services in scope. That is, this page will detail where the services are currently in scope and which are in progress. And then is the AWS Security blog, which is a great way to keep track of all of the newest updates to AWS security programs. And then there are also case studies which provide insightful information on some of the AWS current customer experience with security. Okay. Now, for more information, you can always visit aws.amazon.com/security. You will then find links to developer documentation, white papers, articles, tutorials. And for compliance resources, you can visit aws.amazon.com/compliance and then click on resources. And on the resources page, you can find the categories for essentials, workbooks, guides, and best practices. So just to recap, so AWS offers several services, tools, products, and resources to ensure security of your data in the AWS cloud. So visit aws.amazon.com/security or aws.amazon.com/compliance for more resources. Now, for this particular training, I am Jyoti Shaji Edacheri. Wish you all the best and thank you.